Okay. So we'll start with some introductions and then get started with the content at about 1:32. My name is Rob Messmer, Sales Vice President and Channel Chief. Thank you to all of our partners that have joined. This is the second of a three-part series where we're talking about SD-WAN and cloud security. Last time, Matt Douglas took us through an overview of really what SD-WAN cloud security looks like. Today, we're lucky enough to have John Lloyd, Director of CBTS's Cloud Networking Practice, with us, and he's going to take us through one of the technologies that we've selected and have brought to market with Check Point. So John will do that, and then Matt at the end, for those that are new to CBTS, will give a little bit of overview of who we are and what we do in the channel. With that, John, I'll kick it off to you. Thanks for joining, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thanks, Rob. And to reiterate the chat button, love to see questions, comments flowing in. I know it's hard to be interactive with people muted, so utilize that function. I'm happy to address whatever's on your mind. What I want to kind of walk through today, so Rob mentioned why did we choose this specific partner at this stage, but I want to kind of frame up how we got to where we're at. And as everyone says technology is cyclical or that we continue to evolve. And a lot of it's because when we solve one challenge, we tend to create more. And so SD-WAN really came out of the advent of challenges created by the cloud. Move to the cloud, applications are always on, move to the cloud, you can save money. And now we've got a network problem of how do we solve for this move to the cloud. And so for years, we always built networks in, call it for 2 decades, in this model of how do I connect a branch back to my application. Really what we were doing was connecting it to the data center because that's where everything lived. That's where our, and I'm sure Matt walked you through kind of these applications migrating out to the cloud. I lost, email went to 365 and I went to Salesforce and other SaaS applications rather than building them in-house. And I went to hosted voice. And what we couldn't find ourselves really getting away from was the concept that internet and security were still applications that we were coming back to the data center for. And so that's really what the last 2 years have been about. Well, I can start to bring all of my SD-WAN traffic still back to the data center to hit security. And we call this internet backhaul, or maybe you see secure SD-WAN depending on the partner and the vendor that you're looking at. And maybe some sites still do need MPLS, but by large part, I hang a SD-WAN appliance at the edge of my network. Transport is agnostic, but I don't want to now have to secure 1,000 branches. And when I was in an MPLS world, I didn't have that concern. So the way that I solve for that is really just to keep bringing everything back through this internet backhaul to my firewall at the data center. When along the way, we realized I've got this internet transport. I can get directly to these applications like Google Cloud, like Salesforce. And so I trust these applications, right? These are my email. These are things that can be used off the network anyway. So what's the difference of me accessing Salesforce from my bring your own device off network as opposed to when I'm sitting in the network? And so this is where we started to see the concept of split tunneling or business policies elect which applications we were going to take advantage of direct connectivity, low cost, high bandwidth internet. And for everything else that I don't trust, I want you to come back to the corporate firewall, right? Come back to my data center. Well, now we've got this new challenge, and the challenge is really twofold. The first is maybe I'm not okay with things like malware and data loss prevention and looking at the applications, what are the attachments in Salesforce and 365. Maybe rather than trying to secure my network or secure my PC, I should be more focused on securing my applications, and then it doesn't matter how or where someone's connecting. And the other challenge that we've seen, everyone's gone to work from home, and I've got to figure out how do I continue to give them access to applications, and how do I continue to keep them secure. And as we talked about, the main application that still resides in business data centers is a firewall. It's internet. And so what we saw over the last 3-4 months is that businesses that expected 20% of their workforce at any given time to be off network and VPNing back in now have 100% of their network. That means they need physical hardware upgrades. Maybe they're using an ASA and a 5525 needs to go to a 5550. Maybe we need to increase our VPN license count on, FortiVPN from 100 users to 1,000 users. All of a sudden, I have to build a hardware-defined application, and I have to do it for 100% of my network based on current work-from-home environments. And more importantly, now I have internet coming into my data center to hit that firewall, but most of my applications, Matt talked about in Series 1, those don't live there anymore. And so I'm coming in over internet to hit a firewall to go back out over internet. And so now my data center bandwidth is saturated. And I've got this experience when people work from home, think about what their normal home experience is. 200 meg internet for $49.99 a month and all the Netflix you want, or as Rob mentioned, at the start of the call, for those who joined early, kids playing Fortnite till 3 a.m. Why don't I have that same experience when I'm accessing work applications? So these were the challenges that we were looking to solve. And I want to frame that piece up as we start to talk about why did we choose Check Point? Why did we choose the CloudGuard Connect platform? One of it is integration with SD-WAN, not just our flagship SD-WAN offerings, but really an SD-WAN agnostic approach where I can build a tunnel from the branch, or if I do have like a VeloCloud gateway orchestration layer, right, I can build the tunnel off of that gateway. And now what I'm doing is every time traffic is traveling the internet, I'm going through a Check Point enterprise class firewall. And that is no longer residing in my data center. I'm not taking up corporate resources, corporate bandwidth, and I can scale at an incredible pace. I don't have to buy bigger hardware. I don't have to buy more licenses. I can scale this thing up. I can scale this thing down, which you'd expect the true benefit of as a service. Gartner themselves, I always call out 25-year veteran. A lot of people feel like 25 years doesn't seem that old. Well, think about, you're talking about 1995 as a leader in the firewall and enterprise security game. That's a long time for this kind of technology. And what I like about Check Point, and I call out, typically you'll see vendor A always touts Gartner, or vendor B always touts NSS Labs. And there tends to be relationships of an OEM to one particular analytical group or one testing community. And as you look at Check Point, they are touted across the board from Forrester and NSS and Gartner as an industry-wide accepted leader when it comes to securing your corporate network. Also is the ease of setting it up. One of the challenges, SD-WAN is supposed to make networking simple. It's supposed to provide network visibility. Zero-touch provisioning is, some are better at it than others, but they all tout, we've got ZTP. Well, all of a sudden, if I want to go with the traditional, some of the competitors in this cloud security space, and we're talking about doing Microsoft group updates and pushing group policy or GPOs out to all of my devices, how do I manage that? How do I manage pack files to start to create basically what the zero trust policy? It's very difficult to set up, and it's very difficult to maintain. And as you know, security moves and security threats move at a faster pace than any other piece of technology. And so when we partner with Check Point, we're able to take any device that's capable of building a VPN tunnel and in just 5 minutes, connect it to a cloud instance. And we're going to talk about where this cloud instance lives and what that does for performance. But the use case here is whether that's CBTS in our VeloCloud SD-WAN, whether that's an existing router on site, we're able to stand up in a matter of minutes this enterprise class corporate security. And we do so in a monthly subscription model. So you don't have to make a decision on where you're going to be in a year or where you're going to be in 5 years. If you pick a security vendor and you go across the board and you look at their data sheets, every single one, there's going to be 10 hardware options, and what their throughput capabilities are going to differ based off of what feature sets you turn on. So I might have 4 gig of throughput, but then if you turn on intrusion prevention, that goes down. And if you turn on VPN, that goes down. And so I'm having to make a bet and a large financial investment in a hardware-defined application or hardware-defined technology when everything else is moving software-defined. So we're allowing you to continue with that. And in the past, we've had a proxy solution, meaning, well, my branches, I don't want to put a firewall in, but I do want it to go through some point of security. And what's great here, what we're able to do is not send everything through to that proxy. It's not an all or nothing. A cloud-based security layer or a SASE, what we're able to do is decide, I don't want to send printers through there. Or with VeloCloud SD-WAN, create business policies that say, I don't want to send Netflix through my corporate security. I don't want to pay for that bandwidth. I don't want those choke points. And because it's not a proxy, I have survivability. So I can build connectivity to different AWS where they're built out today. I can build out to different availability zones. I can configure different policies by site, and I can configure different policies based off of what is in the network. And so I can control and see everything that's going on. Imagine a proxy solution. I have to tell that device that you're going through to the proxy. I have to tell the device where to point to. What if somebody comes into my network, it doesn't have that proxy setting? In this world, we're telling that edge device where to point to, or we're telling those applications where to point to if you want to get more granular. And so we have the ability to protect against shadow IT. We have the ability to protect against maybe a malware vulnerability that came into a printer. It's well more than just a proxy that may have been the solution in the past. One of our values, and for our partner community that's partnered with CBTS, hopefully you've seen this. We try to make it easy to do business with us. And as you compare Check Point's offerings on the direct OEM side or the competitors in this space, you have to decide how secure you want to be. And you have to juxtapose that with how much money are you willing to spend. And it's never a conversation that we want to have. We don't want to go and talk to our customers about what risk are you willing to tolerate, how exposed are you willing to be. And so what we've done is gone and taken all of the feature sets, all of the upsell, all of the different ladder tiered of features, and we put one package around that. So when you partner with CBTS, we're bringing all of the features that you see here, and as you see the different lengths, those are denoting what packages or combinations or upsells a traditional customer would have to do when working with a managed service provider or buying through distribution. We're keeping the concept of easy to do business with, cost-effective, scalable monthly billing, but not sacrificing what those feature sets are that are needed today to keep you safe in this new world of where applications live or where employees live. And when we talk about keeping safe, another benefit of Check Point, aside from they understand the scalability component, they understand making it easy to manage and easy to set up, they don't sacrifice in their security posture. And so their threat cloud, all the different feature sets we talked about that are brought into our package and why we bring that package together, they have a 100% catch rate. What we don't want to do is stand in front of our customers and tell them we have a 100% catch rate, but then start peeling back layers to reduce cost, and now all of a sudden we don't have that same 100% catch rate while we have that expectation. And so that is the number one differentiator if you walk away today, is understanding that Check Point delivers a 100% catch rate, and anytime I partner with CBTS in Check Point, I don't have to worry about how to build that out to achieve 100%. You automatically are getting that out of the gate. We also want to make sure we're not sacrificing performance. So one of the questions we always want to ask and talk through when we look at cloud solutions, or especially cloud security solutions, where everything is going to traverse, or most things, right? We don't have to do Netflix, we said. But what am I going to impact my network? Where do you live? How many instances do you have? How far away you're adding a hop into my network? And what is my complexity? So we understand we're bringing 100% threat detection and threat catch into the network. We also are bringing ease into the network with the 5-minute setup I shared with you, pointing any kind of SD-WAN appliance or any kind of router to it. But because of the availability zones, Check Point is built out in every single AWS instance, except for China today, globally. And on the roadmap, I share this on a later slide, they're also working on building out into Azure and 365, so they'll have even more availability. And so when we focus on that, gives us 5 nines of uptime because we have all these different instances. The big takeaway is that they're able to give you a under 50 millisecond latency because of geographically positioned near the internet exchange points of the globe. So everywhere the IXCs are, AWS is, Check Point is, and so we're protecting your traffic all the way without sacrificing that latency that you may add in with a backhaul type policy. There's another component that we want to talk through, and that is to talk about what if my device isn't IPsec capable, right? We talk about our cell phones that are always on, and your employees use Office 365 and G Suite, and they use Salesforce and maybe ServiceNow, and every application has a business application. That's a much bigger challenge because those aren't going through the same firewalls. And so what we do with CloudGuard SaaS, which is a bolt-on to our CloudGuard Connect, so you think of CloudGuard Connect as your SASE, your Secure Internet Gateway or SIG, CloudGuard SaaS is the CASB, or the Cloud Access Security Brokerage. And what we're doing with CloudGuard SaaS is we're building a layer between those applications like Office 365, Dropbox, G Suite, Salesforce, et cetera. We're creating a multi-factor authentication to make sure when somebody on that device, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's a bring your own device, whether it's something on network or off network, we want to verify you are who you say you are. And we're going to bring that same threat cloud that had that 100% catch rate, and we're going to bring this into every single user. And so now I'm no longer protecting John Lloyd's iPhone. I'm protecting John Lloyd, whether that's from his iPhone or from his personal PC or his corporate PC. We have an API that builds between these applications and CloudGuard. And we're inspecting for 0-day. We're inspecting for data leaks. Obviously, we're doing the multi-factor authentication for identity protection. And we're building all of this into one management platform. So we're not having to worry about do I create a CASB strategy and do I create a secure internet gateway strategy? So you may see competitors like a Palo Alto or a Zscaler in one space and then NetCloud or Netscope in another. We're, again, thinking about simplifying the network, one central single pane of glass. And it's more than just a CASB because we're able to bring all of those same benefits of Threat Cloud into this CloudGuard SaaS application. So it's not just DNS inline for if you're familiar with how those work. We're not just updating DNS records to say go here first. We have an actual API in place. So we're not sacrificing performance. We're not updating MX records and steering traffic away. We are literally making sure that it is the right people using the right application in the right way. And anything beyond that, we're going to bring that 100% catch rate. A little bit of the competitive landscape. So I've dropped some of these names, and some of you, this may be a new segment. You've probably heard the hot button of SASE or Secure Access Security Edge or Software Access Security Edge. You may have heard CASB, the Cloud Access Security Brokerage. SIG is Secure Internet Gateway. These acronyms get thrown around, but what do they mean? And so the big competitors in this space, Zscaler, who was kind of the first to market incumbent in this cloud security, Palo Alto Networks, they acquired a company called Prisma, so you'll see that product name, and then Check Point. These are the big three. And you can see when you go across the board, I mentioned this idea of a single pane of glass. You may still want to keep a firewall at certain key sites. Maybe you have very heavy users there and you want to send it out without that extra hop. We can put an NFV or a network virtual function that runs inside of our VeloCloud Edge. Still the same management plane. Maybe you want a physical piece of hardware from Check Point in your data center for third-party rail or DMZ for vendors and inbound, maybe you're hosting applications. We can do that with physical, the quantum line, still single pane of glass. And so we're touting 100% catch rate, where Zscaler isn't certified and Palo Alto is 98%. We're using 5 nines of uptime SLA, where Palo Alto is 3 nines. We're bringing less than 50 milliseconds latency, which is half of Zscaler and Palo Alto has neglected to share. In the per site performance, Zscaler is going to cap at 200 meg, and Check Point, you can see, is 3-4 times that amount. So I say 3-4 times because 870 is a little bit more slideware. In actual, we did real iPerf testing, and we saw about 500 to 550 meg of throughput depending on the traffic. And then the out-of-the-box integration. For your customers, one of the things that our partner community brings so much value to the table, this doesn't just work with VeloCloud, right, where our CBTS organization is strong partnership. You may have customers that you've got partnerships with, your Silver Peaks, your Arubas. We can integrate, we can partner right out of the gate with those. And so this is an opportunity for you to layer on and bring value and bring CBTS and bring our expertise into your customers, even if they maybe made a decision to purchase an SD-WAN versus work with a service provider, or maybe they worked with a different service provider. And so what we really bring to the table is that ease of simple pricing strategy, the ability to execute on the product, right? These are what Gartner says of Check Point. Their pricing strategy is better than the others. Their execution on these features are better than the others. The way that they can scale, the fact that they're built out in every AWS, the fact that they have this 870 theoretical throughput, and the features they bring to the table. Nobody does that like Check Point. But on the right-hand side, where Gartner says, we want to caution you a little bit about Check Point. Their market responsiveness, their ability to understand what customers are truly looking for and what their needs are, their market strategy, their ability to partner and layer in additional services for one wrapper, and then the technical support, the ability to help at layer 1 and 2 or levels 1 and 2. Those were, if you've worked with CBTS in our partner community, hopefully you've seen our market responsiveness. You've seen that we bring value not just on one particular piece of technology. We can help across the board. And then our technical support. We are 100% W-2 employees. We don't outsource. So we're able to fill in the gaps where Check Point says by far, or Gartner says Check Point by far is the best over here. Where they lack is the strong suit of CBTS. And in that interest of simplified pricing and simplified modeling, with Zscaler, you pay per user. With Palo Alto Prisma, you pay per megabit. And when you hit your cap, traffic gets dropped. We bring a lot of flexibility here. And this can be done by site, not just by customer. So maybe you have corporate office sites where it makes sense to pay by the megabit. And maybe you have retail branch sites where you have a couple of point of sale where it makes sense to pay per user. And so we have this simplified model. It's $12 a month is the rate card price. And that's per user or per megabit. The per megabit is dynamically allocated. So if you said we want 300 meg for the whole network, you don't have to say that's going to be 10 meg at this site and 50 at this site. It's a pool of data. And so if you're geographically dispersed globally or even across time zones in the US, that way you aren't paying for something you're not using. It can be a shared commodity, busy times and off busy times. And then when you go over, there's not a penalty for it, and we're not going to drop the traffic. We'll allow you to continue to conduct revenue generating business. And we just pay $12 for whatever your peak is above what your subscription was. And, excuse me. And then the CloudGuard SaaS, $5 a month bolt-on per user. So you may have sites like that retail point of sale where there's not a benefit for it, but the store manager that's always on the mobile, that's where you would want to layer it on. And so we bring all of those capabilities to it. I'm going to wrap on this so I leave time for Matt Douglas. Our benefit here is that we're not having to buy hardware and then take that hardware offline when we want to do a patch, or buy more hardware when we've outgrown it. And there's two ways you outgrow firewalls: throughput or bandwidth, and resources or users. Those are gone. So there's no cost to deploy. There's no cost to upgrade. It scales as you scale. So if you just sent 100% of your workforce home, this would have scaled up with you. There would have been no sleepless nights of how to do so. And then troubleshooting costs, right? You don't have to take down the network, or you don't have to wait for maintenance windows. We're able to constantly keep you patched, keep you upgraded, what they call a hot JHF or jumbo hot fix. We have these in the cloud, so we're able to put them in testing or in development. And we allow you to start where your size is today, and you can grow up with us and auto scale. You're not having to always budget for the growth. We bring to you all of the features that I already shared with you. So URL filtering and app control, you can see it all on here, where there's no limit or shortage of ways that we keep you secure with that threat cloud. And I mentioned our location. So we're in every single AWS deployment with the exception of China. That is roadmap. And we're working today on getting Office 365 and Microsoft Azure. So again, about getting you closer to your application and getting you closer to the internet. When it comes to VeloCloud, we're delivering a really unique solution where even if you aren't a VeloCloud customer today, we can send you in a work-from-home model with a VeloCloud 510 LTE with built-in SIM. So now you've got your broadband link, you've got your cellular failover provided by CBTS, and we are building, we don't need an IPsec tunnel to the edge. You have a dynamic tunnel to a VeloCloud gateway, and from there we're creating the VPN tunnel out. And so we can scale this to thousands of work-from-home users literally with zero-touch provisioning. Matt, I want to pass it over to you. I want to leave enough time to be able to talk a little bit about CBTS for those who maybe are new or haven't seen some of the things that we've been doing, exciting over the last 12 months.
Sure. Let me grab this. Oh, you can work from here. Before I start there, though, John, talk a little bit. You did mention about how you can do kind of different paradigms for security. Maybe you need a firewall back at the data center as well as use the cloud security. But talk a little bit too about how we can support even multiple security paradigms like breaking out guest SSIDs or Wi-Fi, those kinds of things. It's not an all or nothing. We can build a custom security approach. Mention a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, so we really look at, there's 4 distinct profiles as we built out this strategy. The first one is our roaming user, and roaming user is our nomadic, right? These are the work from Panera today and Starbucks tomorrow and our lake house, right? This is probably a little more relevant to today's culture of things not being open or social distancing. But maybe I'm working from the grandparents, et cetera. I'm working from a different place all the time. That's different than our work from home user. The work from home user is a stable, it's my office here. It's permanent. I've got a physical piece of hardware. I've got my branch, and the branch is what we're talking about, getting to CloudGuard Connect or an NFV locally. And then I've got the data center profile where we want physical hardware because we're bringing, we're hosting applications, and maybe we've got a ton of sessions coming in from the outside world, from outside my network and things like that. As we start to go and design for those, they have different use cases. And so we look at the VPN user that is roaming that maybe just needs to get out to the internet. And then we look at the work from home that maybe needs to get back into the network and out to the internet. And then the branch that needs to get site to site and out to the internet. And then of course the data center function. That becomes there's 2 priorities. The first one is I want a single pane of glass. I want to be able to bring the same level of 100% catch rate without introducing complexity. And that we can do with Check Point, with the Check Point Infinity Smart Console. I can bring hardware, I can bring NFV, I can bring cloud, all into one easy to manage console. The next is if I'm starting to pay per megabit, or if I am adding a hop, what do we start to do about my applications? And so when we partner, when we bring in, whether it's IPsec, we can do it at layer 3, meaning not the guest Wi-Fi subnet. Don't send that to Check Point. If we're going to allow guests to do whatever they want on that network and use Facebook and use social media, that can go directly out. If we add an additional layer, like an SD-WAN, like a Velo Cloud, now we're talking about layer 7, meaning not just are you on guest Wi-Fi or corporate, but are you on corporate and still just going to Netflix or iHeartRadio or non-business critical applications. And now I can create a policy that sends those out, and I'm not going to send that to CloudGuard Connect or voice. I don't want to send that over a long journey. I don't want to send that through a firewall. So whether that's at layer 3, meaning the subnet for voice, or at layer 7, which becomes important as we start to use our soft phones on our PCs, I can treat that traffic how it needs to be treated. And that's a huge difference versus a proxy.
Yep, I appreciate that. Thanks, John. Just go through, we've just got a couple minutes. Go to what we kind of call the 4 pillars slide. You can keep going there. There you go. And, for those of you, some of you have seen this, those of you who haven't seen it, this is really to try and highlight some of the areas of expertise that CBTS brings into the channel. You see our UCAS side there, that's this pillar on the left. For those of you who are not aware, we've been delivering Cisco-based UCAS services for going on 18 years now. You see Cisco Call Manager there. If you ever call the state of Ohio, we deliver 50,000 hosted phones a month for the state of Ohio, 15,000 hosted phones a month for the state of Indiana, 40,000 for GE a month. I mean, we've got a very mature practice on delivering hosted call manager. The same thing with our BroadSoft practice. You see WebEx calling, contact center, WebEx Teams and meetings. Basically, the point here is that for you in the channel, in the past, if somebody wanted to buy Cisco collaboration or telephony solutions, you were out of the revenue stream. We've taken all of these now and turned these into a service, have been delivering them for decades. And so if you've got a customer who wants to stay in the Cisco telephony or collaboration stream, we can help them get there and put the same kinds of revenue in the pocket that you'd expect with another UCaaS provider. The Meraki stack has been exploding for us. For those of you who have not taken a look at the Meraki stack or would like to get a demo, please get a hold of your account manager or one of my team. This has been very strong on the retail side. Examples like we've done 600 Barnes and Noble stores. We're in the middle of a 3,000 location restaurant chain today. We're about 1,500 sites in, where this basically enables kind of the store of the future. We're finding out the retail side that people are starting to reinvest in each of these individual locations because the now technology stack at a store is becoming an enabler for IoT, for video training, digital signage, all sorts of different things. So the Meraki stack has been very successful for us. You heard John talk about our SD-WAN practice. This actually is a multi-platform practice. We got into this about 4 years ago with a pretty thorough kind of test lab and RFP. We are actually VeloCloud's reigning partner of the year right now. So we have a lot of expertise on the VeloCloud side, thousands of locations, hundreds of customers done just in the last couple of years. Meraki, although SD-WAN Lite applies in certain situations. And Viptela is actually kind of coming back into the picture, particularly globally. So some of you want to talk about global opportunities, we've now expanded both VeloCloud and Viptela globally. And you see as well that we do some things around 4G backup, LTE backup, or circuit letter of authorization or remediation. We'll support these as well, because oftentimes we don't need circuits. We're deploying this kind of managed solution on top of anybody's circuits. And everything you see here when you say co-management, we are not selling black boxes. We're allowing co-management. Customers be able to get in, see the same interfaces, get the same alerting. And you heard John talk about cloud security. The Check Point is absolutely one of our key focuses, if you would. There are, again, you walk into a customer, and if they've got Cisco tattooed on their arm and they want to talk about Cisco umbrella, we of course are one of Cisco's top partners, a 20-year gold partnership with Cisco, so we can deliver those. So just want to let you know again, for some of those are either refresh or have not seen our portfolio, these are the kinds of solutions that we pull together in parts and pieces, and we can deliver them separately as well. You may have a customer that you've decided RingCentral is a fabulous solution for, but you'd like to talk to us about the Meraki stack or some other Check Point, these kinds of things. So feel free to get a hold of your account manager, and we'd love to explore these things. Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. This was the second of the 3 series. Next week we'll be joined by Check Point and have a bit of an expert roundtable with John, Matt, and Mario from Check Point. So please join us then, and we look forward to seeing you, or I guess seeing you virtually. And thank you for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.